Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dustin Perry from Ghost Hunters and Ghost Hunters International, and you are tuned into the Paranormally Zone.
Look, I know the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen. It does happen.
A ghostly apparition in the dark of night.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Hey there, ponderers of the paranormal. You have found the Paranormally Zone, your place for all things paranormal, unexplained, odd, and mysterious. And, of course, all of the good times in between. My name is Patrick Koffenberg. I am responsible for these shenanigans, and I am joined, as always, well, nearly always. I am joined, nearly always, tonight included, by my co-host with the ghosts. The hurried Mike Carbno. The hurried Mike Carbno. Do you feel rushed, Mike? Are you good to go? Are you settled? Are you relaxed? Is your pulse your pulse quickened, or are you calm right now?
Yes, I took my blood pressure medication with a swig of beer just before we started.
Okay. Well, there you go. There you go. That works.
No, yes, I was rushed. We had to go to Fargo today. Yes, heard you back to the Fargo, the one in the movie. And we had to get some Christmas things, and we had to buy a tree, and then so we had to try to get all that in. And of course, we ended up leaving home late to get there because of just the way the day was, and then rushing back. And then we have Mary's grandson with us, 5-month-old baby, and we had to stop along the way coming home and get him fed and whatever and settle down because he was a bit restless.
Sure.
So yeah, it was good though. We got home.
But you're good.
I'm ready to go.
Okay, I was just going to ask. I wanted to make certain because I want you fully focused. I want you ready to go. I want you, firing on all cylinders here.
I never fire on all cylinders.
Well, you try. You do your best, and yes, you do. You do fire on all cylinders more often than you think, Mike. More often than you think.
Yeah, but they sputter a little bit, especially tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to shamelessly say that tomorrow is my birthday, and I am that much closer to the next year where I'm going to be 60
Say it.
Freaking years old.
Oh, he almost dropped the F-bomb. I was hoping he'd drop the F-bomb. But hey.
So, yes, 59 years old tomorrow, and I still have the mind and humor of a 12-year-old.
Hey, and that's great. And it makes for good podcast material at the very least, right? So
absolutely.
That's awesome. So happy early birthday, Mike.
Yes, thank you.
Yep, you don't look a day past 57. I think it's awesome. Oh, and there goes the dog. It's like the moment, Macy the dog has been quiet this whole time. And then the moment we actually press record.
She knows.
She knows. Something's going on. She's like, Daddy's talking. Daddy's talking. I want to make my presence known. So I trust us, listeners. Mike is going to eventually have his own podcast room, his own podcast enclosure.
The
of
plans
some
are
sort.
made, and the whole design is there. It just has to be done.
Just has to be done. Absolutely. So again, though, Mike, like I said, happy early birthday to you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And a happy current birthday to a sometime guest host, our own Mr. Show, my brother Joe. It's his birthday today. And it's also my oldest brother's birthday today. They share the same birthday, born 3 days apart. That's crazy.
Yeah, awesome.
And both of their firstborn kids were born on the first day, or were born on the same day, a year apart. So it's like there's some synchronicity or something going on there with that. It's like, wow, that's a lot of coincidences going on.
Interesting. And last week, I believe, well, yes, it was last week. It was Rodney Dangerfield's 100th birthday.
100?
Yes.
Wow.
He would
Holy
have
cow.
been 100
He's been passed
if he
away
would have
for...
laid off the coke a little bit
Yeah,
earlier.
that would have helped.
No.
He's been passed away that long already, huh? Because he was
Yeah.
like in his 80s, I believe, when he passed away. But,
Yeah.
the Dangerfield, man. The Dangerfield,
Yeah.
classic humor. So
The one and only.
the one and only. Well, we got a good one lined up for you guys tonight. Well, we think it's good. It's definitely not a story that is unknown in the cryptozoological world by any means. I mean, it's been told several times. Chances are you are familiar with it if you're tuning into a show such as this. Again, we focus on all things paranormal, unexplained, odd, and mysterious, and this falls definitely under odd.
Yeah, and the story begins. 'Twas the night before Christmas.
Right. I mean,
When all through the house,
not a creature was stirring.
not
Except-
even a squatch.
Not even a squatch, no, but actually it's a family of squatch.
Yes.
We're going to dive into the, well, I will call it infamous because it is rather infamous, the infamous story of Albert Ostman and his alleged encounter / kidnapping by a family of Bigfoot back in 1924 in British
Yeah.
Columbia.
Yeah.
It's a crazy
Didn't
story.
he fall in love with one of them, or the daddy squatch had a shotgun and said, "You shall marry my daughter"?
You know, it's really funny that you said that, Mike, because he has been quoted as to say that at one point he considered, after he escaped from this family, he considered taking the young girl Sasquatch with him. I'm not sure what his reasoning was at that time, but then he says he decided against it because he didn't want to hold her in a cage and hold her captive and put her on display. And he says, no one has the right to, basically hold anyone against their will. So it's like, interesting. I wonder what brought that about.
Yeah.
But
They were
I mean,
making eyes at each other across the cave.
They might have been. Who knows there? I don't know. It's lonely up there in the woods every now and then. So
He liked her musk.
Yeah, so it's an incredible story. If it's
He enjoyed the swaying of her
okay,
pendulous breasts.
there you go, Mike. Okay, yep, get it out of your system. Come on.
I'm done.
Okay, no, if true, it is an absolutely extraordinary story. I don't know where you sit on this, Mike. We'll make our decisions at the end of the show, towards the end
Absolutely.
of the show, where we sit on this alleged encounter. It's fascinating either way. I have some audio clips, at least one for sure, depending on where we are for time. Some audio clips with Mr. Albert Ostman himself. Passed away in 1975. 75. Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Born in late 1890s. So he made it up to his 80s, I believe.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
1893 he was born, actually.
okay, the thing is that always adds credibility for me, and we've repeated this 1,000 times, Mike, especially on the Alternate Out podcast, which is no more. Has ceased to be, has gone on to make its podcast, meet its podcast maker. It is 6 feet under, whatever else. We've said this 1,000 times. What adds credibility to stories is when the stories never change throughout the years. Every time they're told to share their story, nothing changes. The details are the same. They don't elaborate. They don't exaggerate from one tale to the next. That adds a little bit to it.
That's like my stories of that, recounting the story of that young girl ghost that I saw. It's like when it's so real and you experience it, even after many, many years or decades, when you're telling the story, it plays over in your mind. You're remembering it as it happened. I mean, you're not leaving out little things. You're not adding little things. It's so stamped into your mind that, you tell it, you're seeing it as you're telling it. You're seeing it over again, just like it was yesterday.
You're reliving it, like you said.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Chances for embellishment are not there. They really aren't. So,
right.
Again,
but that shall be
story.
fun.
No, it'll be fun.
Speaking of this, yeah,
and we had briefly talked about it again on the Alternate Out podcast. I believe Mr. Show, my brother Joe, and I talked about it on one of our Bigfoot episodes. But as we have stated several times, the Paranormally Zone is a new start. It's a fresh start. And hopefully we feel it's been more succinct, a little more streamlined, straightforward, to the point, and hopefully better. Not that the Ultimate podcast wasn't good, because we had a blast, and we'll never. Hey, thankful for the tons of awesome guests that we've had on the Ultimate podcast, and
the guests that are yet to come.
Exactly, Mike. The guests who have yet to come on or in the Paranormally Zone, I gotta say. So, looking forward to it. Let's. Should we just dive right into it, Mike, or do you have anything you want to just banter about for a second, or should we just dive into the meat? What do you think? Uh-oh.
Banter.
Now he's saying banter to himself. So what does that mean?
I'm thinking out loud to myself.
We don't have to go to the soundboard already, do we? Okay, I think. Yeah. Yeah. So
I like echoing that with my with my real voice on the recording.
Mike just stepped in German Shepherd poop. Ow! Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Hey, and that is not fun.
No, I know it isn't.
Yeah, you either slip on it if you catch it on the side,
sure,
or you get stuck in it if you go right into it.
Lovely. Yeah.
5 months old she is, and it's dinosaur poop. It's like Laura Dern putting that shoulder length glove on and digging into that Stegosaurus's poop to find out what's wrong with it.
Was it a Stegosaurus or was it Triceratops? I don't remember.
Triceratops, yes, it was a Triceratops.
It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. But
it's just as enjoyable as waking up in the middle of the night and walking towards the bathroom and stepping in an ice cold pile of cat puke that's on the floor. So that's always enjoyable as well. So
yes, nasty.
It's nasty. It's wonderful. So, anyways, hopefully I won't be doing that later on this evening. Oh, before I forget, we hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving.
Absolutely.
We are so thankful for all of you listening right now. I tweeted, shared a couple of some iTunes reviews that we have got, or Apple Podcast reviews we have received.
A couple, I saw one that was wonderful. They're
just awesome. It means so much to us. If you're listening right now and you enjoy what you're listening to, take a moment or two, if you're so inclined, and leave a positive review. It does help a hell of a lot. It helps spread the positivity, helps spread the podcast word.
And it helps with my insecurity.
It does. Most importantly, it makes Mike sleep at night.
Yeah. So, well, I think I'm really bad for the show, and I think sometimes you should just continue on by yourself.
That is sad that you just said that.
No, I'm kidding.
That is horrible.
Don't
Mike.
take this away from me.
Okay. Yeah. Dingy ding, dingy ding ding. I thought you were going to ring your ding bell there, but I guess you didn't. So, hey, Mike.
No.
Albert Ostman, the story of Sasquatch being kidnapped by God damn it, I'm laughing. I don't mean to laugh. Before we dive into that,
by a bulging beastly beast.
Just don't say swinging pendulous breasts again, okay? So,
hey, you said it for me just now.
Well, I was repeating you, so I'm not saying anything for you. Quickly, though, Mike, when it comes to what means the most to you, I know what the answer is, but for new listeners tuning in, and for those who are just checking us out, I will say that Mike has led an extraordinary paranormal life himself. He has had so many experiences since he was a young boy. I mean, he briefly mentioned seeing the floating apparition of the little girl earlier on in this episode, and it's basically been like that for him on and off his entire life.
Absolutely.
And I know what the answer is here, but for new listeners, where does Sasquatch slash Bigfoot rank for you, Mike, when it comes to ghosts, aliens, and then like cryptid legends? And briefly talk about just a wee bit.
I mean, what order do I appreciate them in?
And which one means the most to you?
Oh, oh man. I have always so been enamored since I was a little kid with UFOs, because it's something that I heard about since I was very little. Back in the 60s, my dad actually, he would read stories about these things where there wasn't a whole lot back then to read about, but he found them, and he, like Eric von Däniken reading his books and things like that. My dad read those when I was just tiny. So I learned a lot from my dad to appreciate that. As far as it's got to be the paranormal as far as ghosts and spectral beings, because I've experienced it. I know it's there in my heart and mind. It's real. It's been proven to me. And then of course the ufology, that's way high up there too. And Bigfoot is too, but it's, Bigfoot to me is more like, it's a cryptid, but to me, it's something that's real. That's out there. It's an actual living creature that exists, that is smart enough to keep out of the limelight as much as it can, with everybody that's so many people that are hunting it or looking for it. It's so elusive, the intelligence of it. To me, they're all real, but the ghosts, the afterlife, that's the huge thing for me.
Okay. Yep. And I agree with you, Mike. For me, I mean, I've stated on the podcast before, it's just, how can the afterlife not be the ultimate question? How can it not be the ultimate mystery?
Well,
So-
it includes people we know, people that we know that have passed away.
Yeah.
A family that has been gone. It's like that's kind of part of it.
It is. And we're briefly gathering at Thanksgiving and over the last couple days, as listeners know, my mom's husband passed away 3 months ago, and she's been experiencing some odd and interesting things. And we're all standing there in the living room yesterday, and trust me, there's a very possible logical explanation for it. But we're standing there in the living room, mom's giant house, and we're all just kind of talking casually, and then the front door opens, opens by itself, and then we just kind of shut it. But then we started thinking about it. I was like, why did that open?
Right.
And we're like, it could very, very easily just could have not been shut all the way from the last person came in there, and the wind could have blown open. I mean, that more than likely that's what it was. But that got us talking about
it. Within 5 minutes, Patrick joined. That's nothing.
well, come on now. You just have to eliminate all those possibilities every now and then.
Of course you do, yeah.
Every now and then you got to. But it got us talking about it. And again, my mom started talking about just how so many strange, odd things have been happening over the last few months that she thinks it's quite possible that her husband is still around, and just perhaps maybe checking on her, making sure everything's okay. So that's why the afterlife to me is the ultimate question, the ultimate mystery. And then for me, I would say aliens / UAP / UFOs, because my God, intelligent life outside of our own, which is, to me, there's no doubt about that. I mean,
right.
I mean, come on. And
unless your name is Joe Nickel.
Hey, thank you for bringing up Joe Nickel, because we're going to mention him on this episode later on during the discussion about Albert Ostman.
Yeah.
So
he gets his nose into all this.
He does. Well, we'll say it right now, so we don't have to talk about it too much. He obviously doesn't believe Albert Ostman. He thinks it was all made up. I think it was a fabric of his. It was fabricated, conjured up in his imagination, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, well, what he said was he categorized the story as more likely the result of imagination than of recollection.
There you go. Right. If just how condescending is that? Let's say that this legitimately, let's say this was a legit occurrence that Albert went through, and then someone else says, no, I think it's conjured up. It's not real just because I think so. It's like, gosh, wouldn't you want to smack the guy in the face?
Yeah.
it's like, dude, this is real.
Absolutely.
This happened. The extraordinary can happen, my friend. It can happen.
And then Albert says to them, if Joe Nickel could have been back there with him after this happened, I think if Albert Ostman could have said, Joe, it really happened. Here, smell my finger.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. He had a thing for that.
Hold on.
That we'll get into that later too, about how he had something for the young female.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Thanks, Mike.
Sorry, I just grossed out too many people.
Yeah. Well, I won't make any. It's a new beginning, so I'm not going to make any more jokes about our listening fan base, or not fan base, the base, the amount of people listening right now. Normally I would say that we're up to like 12 listeners by now, so now we're down to 8. But I'm not going to joke about it. I'm not going to say that we're down to 8.
Yeah, please. I hate it when you do that.
I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say that we're down to 8 now. So I'm just leave it at that. All right. Well,
we have listeners all over the world.
We do, and we love every.
And you know it.
All right. Well, let's dive right into it. Yeah, as we mentioned before, Albert Ostman, Canadian prospector / lumberjack / all around woodsman / all around good egg. Well, I hope he was good egg.
What I find interesting too is that this story originally allegedly happened almost 100 years ago.
Right. Yep. Coming up on
when there wasn't a whole lot of Bigfoot talk going around, I'm sure.
None. Yeah. Right.
You know, it wasn't in the middle of this, Sasquatch fever that it has been for the last, I don't know, couple of decades maybe or whatever, but
not the Sasquatch surge of sorts.
Right.
But I have always found it interesting, Mike, that did this not happen in the same year that the Ape Canyon event allegedly took place? Did they not both take place in 1924, where people were claimed to have been attacked by again, I'm not sure if it was a family, by several Sasquatch / Bigfoot throwing rocks down in at
That's
them.
right. Absolutely.
Any number of things. But it's like both of them took place in 1924. That's always kind of intrigued me a little bit. But the story goes, this took place Toba Inlet, I believe. What the hell did I write down? Yeah, Toba Inlet, right around British Columbia.
British Columbia, yeah.
And obviously Albert Ostman is the main player here. He was visiting the area on vacation, and he had, according to his story, he was familiar, or he had heard of. He hadn't heard of any Bigfoot Sasquatch stories up to that time. No. One night, old Albert was sitting there. Well, he wasn't that old at that time. Hanging out, sleeping. He had been experiencing some odd things for the few nights that he had been out there, and he was trying not to sleep because he had been hearing odd noises, again, odd experiences, and he wanted to see if he could stay up late enough and not capture, but see who was the culprit behind all these oddities that had been going about around him. Before he knew it, all of a sudden, Mike, he's in a sleeping bag, and he's picked up, and he's gone. He's off for the races, not on his own doing either.
Yep. Squatchy just threw him over his shoulder like a bag of potatoes.
Exactly. That'd be funny if he was like on an end of a stick or something, and just hanging
I'm running away, and I'm bringing only you for my food.
Right, exactly.
But he was carried across country for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like that.
Right. That couldn't have felt good, by the way.
No.
Yeah, kind of a bump.
It probably didn't smell very good either.
Right, probably didn't. No, exactly. So
especially if you figure if he's holding him by the open part of the bag and he's hanging down, his head's probably down by that Squatch's ass. And that's not going to smell good.
Well, yeah, probably not a good diet at that time. Yeah, every step, all of a sudden a little flatulence comes
and they're
out.
Probably not known for their hygienic wiping.
I don't think
so. Sorry, my levity is just going overboard today.
No, that's fine. Yeah, flushable wipes didn't exist back in 1924. So
that's right. And leaves can only do so much.
So anyhow, he's dragged across country. It's the middle of the night. This massive mystery beast is hurling him through the woods, and then he's dropped, and he's allowed to kind of, I guess, peer out of his bag. He's dropped essentially out of his bag, and all of a sudden, right in front of him is a family of Bigfoot, Mike.
There's 4 of them.
A large male who he said was over 8 feet tall, just this beastly bulging man. It wasn't Randy Quaid either. And a female, which he assumed was the mother, and then 2 younger ones.
Right. So 2 adults and 2 children.
2 children.
And captive for 6 days.
6 days. So this again, we do have an audio clip to share from Mr. Albert Ostman, which is always cool to listen to. But I will read a couple quotes here. This is what he initially said. This is what he was initially quoted as. They looked like a family, old man, old lady, and 2 young ones, a boy and a girl. The boy and the girl seemed to be scared of me. The old man did not seem too pleased about what the old woman did not seem too pleased about what the old man dragged home, referring
When
to
are you going
himself.
to quit bringing this crap
I
home?
know, exactly. What good can we do with these prospectors? I don't get it.
We got to pile them out in the back. What are we going to do with another one?
But the old man was waving his arms and telling them all what he had in mind. They all then left me. Now, Ostman said that he had a gun with him, and he kept it close by his side. But he says that the Sasquatch made no, quick moves, or he didn't feel like he was threatened. He didn't feel like he had to use his gun. So he didn't use it. Now, while he was in captivity, Ostman claimed that the family, the mother in particular, fed him, quote-unquote, sweet-tasting grass, which was washed, stacked, and given to him by the adult female, as I said. Ostman then made several detailed observations, which he later recounted, including his efforts to befriend the young male Sasquatch in order to get the larger male interested in the snuff he had on him. He planned to make the adult male eat an entire box of snuff with the intention to kill him in order to make his escape. First off, snuff...
But it did make him groggy.
It did make him groggy. It absolutely did. First off, on a sidebar, Mike, have you ever had chewing tobacco / snuff?
Just a big leafy red man tobacco.
Oh, boy.
I rather enjoyed that.
Oh, you did?
Well, some of the flavors of the things weren't too bad, but you don't swallow it because that about kills you.
Yeah, right. And if you're listening out there and you're enjoying some snuff, God bless you. But man, that stuff has always made me just vomit thinking about using it.
I tried it for just a very, very short time when I was like 18 years old, and I quit very quickly.
Right. Well, okay. Good for you. I'm proud of you, Mike.
Yes.
Ostman also made note of briefly entertaining the idea to take the young female with him whenever he finally got away. But he ultimately decided against it. And then he went on to, quote unquote, what I basically rambled on about earlier. He didn't want to put her on display. He didn't want to keep her captive. So he decided against it. After 6 days, possibly because he suspected he was about to be used for breeding purposes. Ooh, boy. Though this is merely speculation, we have to make that clear. Ostman finally escaped. He was somewhat successful. He's somewhat successfully able to carry... Good Lord, I can't speak. He was somewhat successful in being able to carry out his plan with the snuff, which ended up making Mike, as you said, the adult male groggy enough so that he was able to run away. After escaping, Ostman eventually came upon a logger. Naturally, he didn't mention the Sasquatch family or even being held captive. This is another quote from Ostman here, Mike. I told them that I was a prospector and was lost. I did not like to tell them I had been kidnapped by a Sasquatch, as if I had told them, they would have probably said, he is crazy. Well, yeah, do you think? But, again,
you guys should be loony.
1924... before we go on here, Mike, let's talk about why someone would conjure up a story like this. Okay, there's a possibility that Albert Ostman was just crazy and just like you said, a loony. Okay, and he was desperate for attention.
He's a wee bit loony, eh?
Yeah, we don't know. No one knew back then for certain. He's just a hard-working prospector / lumberjack. I mean. Maybe he just wanted, get his name in the paper. Maybe he just wanted that recognition.
His toque was too tight.
Right. But, as far... Okay, how can I say this? The man didn't exactly go to his grave a respected individual by the masses. He didn't earn unbelievable riches from sharing this story. I would say he suffered more ridicule than acclaim or even interest, really. But why would someone make this up, Mike? If this is totally fabricated, why would they do that?
That's a good question, and there's no evidence in any of this that would give you any clue of that.
And the reason I say that, because I know some listeners are probably screaming at us like, oh, come on, they just want attention. He's a liar. He just wants us, for the obvious reasons. But we're kind of looking at it from the point of view that this guy never changed his story. It was the same from day one till his deathbed. He didn't earn any fame, essentially. Nothing real positive, except along a very niche group of Sasquatch researchers. The majority of people thought of him as just a complete liar, complete hoax, a complete fake. Why would you risk having people look at you like that just for the maybe getting your name in the paper in 1924? I don't
Right.
get it.
Right. Good question. Good question that I have no answer for. And why he didn't bring up the story until 1957. So he waited that long to come out with it. You know, and that's pre Gimlin story, you know, all of that stuff.
Yep. Far before the Patterson film. I mean,
Right.
we're talking what, 11,
Patterson,
12 years.
Gimlin, yeah. So it's hard to say. It's not like, you know, waiting until after the Patterson film and trying to jump on a bandwagon or anything.
Yeah,
I
when
mean,
the peak interest of Sasquatch was there at that time, you know,
right.
that wasn't the case. I mean, it was you were putting your head out there. You were risking everything by coming
it on the
forth.
chopping block, so to speak.
Yeah, and I believe as we touched on it in 1924, again, it wasn't exactly a hotbed for Sasquatch, Bigfoot stories, you know.
Right. It was more stories and legends among, and no, I shouldn't say legend because it was a real thing. It's always been a real thing for the Native Americans. You know, they knew it was real, but did he get a story from some Native Americans that gave him this idea? You know, or did he actually go through it? You know, there's many questions and many theories, and who knows which way to go with it.
So put yourself in his shoes, Mike. Put yourself back in 1924. And this actually happened to you.
I would have took the girl. No, kidding.
What would have been
Kidding.
What would have been your reason for not going to the authorities or telling anybody at that time? I'm trying to get into Albert Ostman's head by asking you.
Yeah, fear of ridicule,
right?
Trying to wrap your head around it yourself. You know, trying to figure out what to do with
that's a great
what
point.
happened and the knowledge and of you know, maybe there was some shock going on there for a long time of just
that's a
trying
great
to
point.
deal with it himself.
That's traumatic. That, you know, if this happened, I mean,
I would have enjoyed the hell out of it as long as they kept giving me that sweetgrass.
There you go. Well, sure, but you're an oddity yourself, though, Mike. Come on.
Yeah.
You would just become a member of the family. You know, I don't know. You would stop shaving and everything. You're just no. It's important to me when talking about stuff like this is trying to put ourselves in their state of mind. They're trying to figure out their reasoning why they may do something or may not do something. As you said, Mike, fear of ridicule, fear of being ostracized completely, fear of maybe losing your job. I mean, any number of reasons. I mean, can you imagine? You're like, well, where did Albert disappear to? He wasn't at work for 6 days. Well, he claimed he was kidnapped by Bigfoot. Well, he's done. We're not hiring him. And then his reputation is sullied, and and he can't get hired again because that's the guy who claimed he got kidnapped by Bigfoot. I wouldn't hire him. I mean,
well, as long as he can swing an axe, he's okay with me.
Sure, right. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So, again, it's important for us to try and put ourselves in their mindset.
You can, and we can, try to think of it and put out whatever conjecture for who knows how long and never come up with a good answer.
Right.
I hope I used the word conjecture correctly there. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I wasn't listening to you, so that's
okay. You never do.
As we said, 1957. 1957, when Ostman finally decided to come forward, and his story has been under high scrutiny ever since. Most people didn't believe the story, shocking, and most people still don't, shocking. But I'm being sarcastic when I say shocking, by the way. Skeptic Joe Nickel. The beloved Joe Nickel. As Mike mentioned already, he said that this story is probably the result of imagination more than recollection. And John Napier, a primatologist, claimed that the story simply was not possible because an entire family of Sasquatch would not have the resources to survive in that particular area, as the food
That's
sources
bull crap.
were
There's
too limited.
plenty.
You would think
Plenty
there would
of
be
resources.
especially if this is what we believe to be an intelligent being.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're feeding Ostman grass, for God's sake. So
Yeah.
obviously that's what they were, maintaining sustenance with.
And I don't care what primatologist or whoever says that it can't happen. There are probably resources out there for food and something to sustain creatures like this and more that we have no idea about. These are creatures that have probably lived in these woods and in these areas for how many generations, how many centuries.
Mm-hmm.
They know everything there is there. They know the entire woods like we know our backyard.
Right.
And they know everything that's edible, and they're going to find things to survive that we couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, they're going to find the most out of what they have out there. They're going to get the most out of what they have. You know what I mean? So what may appear to be unedible to us, it's like that's a main source of protein / fiber, what have you, water for them. Who the hell will say? Many have criticized Ostman because of the amount of time that came for Mike, I am like having a stroke tonight. Many have criticized Ostman because of the amount of time it took for him to come forward. But there are believers. A lot of people do believe. One of them is famed writer John Green, who interviewed Ostman while he was still alive. I think he interviewed him back in 1957, I think. John Green's, I'll read it right now. John Green interviewed him back in 1957. His reasoning for believing him is because the story was told, his reasoning is that because the story was told in 1957, it has an air of truthfulness that it would not have if someone told me the same story today. And that was a quote from Green in 2003. This was an extended quote here. This is from John Green, 2003. Albert was a very believable fellow who handled tough cross-examination with cheerful composure, swore to his story without hesitation, and stuck to it until he died. But I wouldn't believe him if he were telling it today. Today, however, he would have easy sources for his descriptions of those 4 individuals and what they did. When his story came to light in 1957, that simply was not the case. Sasquatch was not commonly thought of as a completely hair-covered creature living much of the same life as a bear. Instead, their public image was that of a tribe of giant Indians, hairy only on their heads, who lived in villages, held annual get-togethers on a special mountain, and used signal fires. His descriptions, so contrary to the media image of his time, have stood up wonderfully well over the years. More than that, he was questioned for hours by Darris Swindler and the veterinarian from the Seattle Primate Center, and they told me that the physical details and the actions he said he had witnessed all rang true. In addition to Green's testimony, Ostman himself claimed that he had never even heard of the Sasquatch until his trip in 1924. So there you go. I have a couple extended quote from Albert as well, but there are believers there, Mike, and I like the reasoning that John Green stated. He's like, the description that he put forth in 1957 wasn't in touch with the would you just get bit by your dog or something? What the hell's happening?
There's his head, but you can't see it against my black T-shirt. Oh, there's a teeth.
There's a tooth. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's a monster. She's a monster.
Yes,
down my girl.
Mike's
She's biting my hand.
He's being attacked by his own Sasquatch right now.
Yeah, all pure love.
Yeah. But I like John Green's point there, for adding to a little bit of credibility, adding a little credibility for Albert's account, was that his description simply didn't ring true with the overall viewpoint of what Sasquatch supposedly were back in 1957, Mike. As they said, his descriptions of them being fully covered in hair and so ape-like, it wasn't the same as what people thought of Sasquatch at the time, Mike. So if he made that up, he was pretty smart in his imagination.
Right,
exactly. And then everyone else since then has followed in his tracks and say, well, if this is what Albert Osman said they looked like, we better make our Bigfoot look just like him. And so therefore Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin all
Right.
jumped on the bandwagon and fabricated the multi-$100,000 Bigfoot suit and went and filmed them. You know, why'd you put that together? Well, because Albert Osman said that's what they look like. Okay, give me a break. That's not how it works. So anyways, Mike's scolding his dog right now, so he's a little sidetracked.
Yeah, she plays catch. She loves to play catch, but it's not with a ball.
Yeah.
She brings her stuffed little animal toys,
Oh, of
and she
course.
wants you to throw the animal toy. Macy,
Stop it. We're recording. Not right now. Tell her in English. We're recording. Well, you know, that's actually probably a good time to take a quick break, so maybe Mike can sedate his dog.
Hey, boy, that hurt my ear.
All right, hold on, boys and girls. Mike, mute your mic, and we shall take a brief time traveling excursion, come up, and we'll finish up on Albert Osman, and then we're going to do our one last take / one last hot take on ghosts as demons. I have a reason behind that one, and I'll share it all with you. So please stick around. Hold on, boys and girls. We shall be right back. Okay, we are back after yet another successful time traveling excursion. Okay, we have a little bit more to talk about with this fascinating story, the alleged kidnapping of Albert Osman by family of Bigfoot. I mean, it is absolutely, as we said while we were time traveling, Mike, it is a fascinating story. It's a great story.
It is.
If you believe it,
Great story.
or you don't, I mean, well, we'll get to where we sit at this before we wrap it up.
It's a great story for telling children before bed.
It is, especially if you're out camping. You know,
Yeah.
let's go camping, children.
Sitting around the campfire. So, children, if you're drug off in the middle of the night in your sleeping bag,
Yep, just
and
make sure.
there's a really bad smell in the air,
Mhm.
try and escape quickly.
Yeah. Just make sure you have some Copenhagen on you or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Now, in addition to John Green's positive testimony in favor of Osman's story, Osman claimed that he had never even heard of Sasquatch until his trip, as I said before we left. Now, this is
And I can believe that.
yeah, this. I'm going to
Back
read
then.
some quotes from Osman again. This is Albert Osman. This old Indian was a very talkative old gentleman. He told me stories about gold brought out by a white man from this lost mine. This white man was a very heavy drinker, spent his money freely in saloons. But he had no trouble in getting more money. He would be away for days, then come back with a bag of gold. But one time he went to his mine and never came back. Some people said a Sasquatch had killed him. This is what the Indian was telling Albert, and Albert is recounting the
Right.
story. At the time, I had never even heard of Sasquatch. So I asked this old Indian what kind of animal he called a Sasquatch. The Indian said, they have hair all over their bodies, but they are not animals. They are people, big people living in the mountains. My uncle saw the tracks of one that were 2 feet long. One old Indian saw one over 8 feet tall. I told the Indian I didn't believe in their old fables about mountain giants. It might have been some thousands of years ago, but not nowadays. So Albert claimed that he didn't believe the stories that the old Indian was telling him back in back in the day. Now, as we have said, Albert stuck to his story until he died. He was interrogated multiple times, interviewed multiple times, and his story never wavered. He was even cross-examined by police. He actually recounted his story to Queen Elizabeth when she visited the province
Really?
in 1959. Story did not change.
Mm-hmm.
Now, right there, that kind of goes against what did this man ever gain, by
Right.
fabricating this story.
Well, he gained an audience with the Queen.
There you go, right there. So, skeptics, there's some evidence right there for you to build your argument. But I don't think that was his intention. He's like, how can I
Yeah,
maybe
no.
talk to the Queen?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I'm going to
Hey,
make.
Queenie, I got a story for you.
I got kidnapped by big feetsies. Let's get on over here. And so he was cross-examined by police and agreed to sign a solemn declaration which said that his account was true under oath and virtue of the Canadian Evidence Act. Osman never recanted the story, despite the ridicule he faced for the rest of his life. And if you're interested in reading Osman's account, his story as told in John Green's 1978 book, Sasquatch, the Apes Among Us, go ahead and find that book. His story in full is there. Well, Mike, should we share that audio?
Absolutely.
Or do you have some thought? Oh my God, what the hell? Now he's slowly pulling this Sasquatch figurine up in front of the screen, and you look like you're enjoying yourself a little bit too much right now, Mike.
He's looking at you.
He is. What's wrong? I don't know. He's giving me the eye. He's giving me the Sasquatch eye.
I love this Squatch. This is what I got from my brother. I just love this thing. We'll
have to save that for a Patreon video exclusive. Right
Yeah,
there.
that would be awesome.
It'll just be me talking to your Sasquatch figurine the whole time with you sitting under the desk providing the voice for it. That'll be humorous. Okay, so
anyway,
this is an interview 1971. So we're saying 4 years before Albert passed away. So let's see here. So he was getting close. He was getting up there in age at this time. So I'd say he's about 78, 79 right now. But I believe this is an interview conducted by John Green himself. I could be wrong. No, John Green talked to him well before that, so this is not John Green. Well, let's just play the darn interview. That's what you're waiting for.
Right.
Here we go. This is Albert Ostman.
The next thing I knew, I was picked up or moved. And first I thought I was in a snowslide or something like that, you know.
And let me ask right now, Mike, can you hear that?
Not very well.
But you can kind of hear it, though?
Yeah.
You're going to have to squeeze your headphones because it's coming through loud and clear on my end, but I
Okay, good. As long as it's coming through good on recording.
Yeah. So you might want to mute your mic and
yes.
Squeeze your headphones as tight as you can there, Mike. Here we go. Albert Ostman.
And then when I start to wake up, you know, I remember I was on this fishing trip and there was no snow. So I didn't know what was going on until I was thrown on something moving. And I felt like it was a horse, or that I was on horseback. But after going a little while, I found out that it couldn't possibly be a horse. So then I started to think about what this Indian told me about Sasquatches. So, but I was trying to get at my sheet knife and cut the sleeping bag and get out. But
now, if you could hear that, Mike, he was talking about how initially he felt like he was being dragged off by a horse, and that's what it felt like to him.
Right.
And he was trying to
the Sasquatch.
Yeah, the Sasquatch, and the ting there, and the ting there, and
yeah, he almost sounds like a French Canadian.
Kind of. Oh,
like
yeah.
a Quebecois.
Absolutely, he does. Well, Canadian prospector.
Well, yeah. There's a big difference between a Quebecois and somebody from British Columbia, believe me.
Well, I'm sure.
Wonderful people.
And you know more than I do. So at this point, he's talking about trying to pull out his knife, trying to cut the sleeping bag. So I hope you can hear this, Mike.
Yes.
The way I was, when he picked me up, I slid down in the bottom of the bag, and my sheet knife was underneath of me. I couldn't get hold of it, and he went up a steep mountain. I could feel myself rising, you know, going up, and he was puffing a little bit, you know, and kind of a cough.
So he's saying that he feels himself being like he can tell that he's going upwards, like he's going up the side of a mountain, and he hears the Sasquatch like puffing, as he says, like it has a cough, like it's maybe struggling to carry him, maybe.
Yeah, he's thinking to himself, this goddamn Canadian's heavy.
Why I bother with this bastard?
Carrying this thing 3 hours over my shoulder up a mountainside. God dang.
I don't think so. Here we go, more Albert Ostman.
And so I knew damn well that it was something unusual.
Did you yell, and were you scared, and did you struggle?
I wasn't scared. I've been with Indians a lot, and that's the funniest part of it. All the time I'm never scared of them.
When you ended up in this small valley with the narrow entrance, did the big one, the old man, make it clear that you were his prisoner and that he didn't want you to go out that entrance?
I tried to go out one morning. After I'd been there just one night, I packed up my stuff, that I had left. And I put the pack sack on my bag, and I put a shell in the barrel in the rifle. And I said, my God, I'm going to get out if I have to shoot myself way out. But when I come to the opening, and he was standing there, and he was pushing against me like, and he said, Uka, Uka. So I backed up to about 60 feet, so I wouldn't be too close, and I was going to shoot him. But then I saw one time on a moving picture of a gorilla, and they knocked him down with high-powered rifles. There were 3 of them. It was on the movie. And they knocked him down, this gorilla with the bullets, several times, and he still come. So I thought, suppose I shoot this fella and just to make him mad. Then I will be.
Okay, so that's interesting. So if you could hear that clearly, Mike, he's talking about how he had saw a moving picture with a gorilla in it, where whomever he's referring to shot this gorilla 3 times, and it was still
high-powered rifle
with a high-powered rifle, and it
still came at him.
Still came at him. So that came into play. That helped him make his decision to not fire away.
Yeah, he was afraid he was just going to piss him off.
He was just going to piss him off.
Yeah.
So first off, I want to know what moving picture he saw back in 1924 or before that, that people were shooting gorillas.
Could have been Frank Buck.
I mean, I'm not saying that it's not out there, but I'm sincerely curious. Listeners, if you know of any movies out there that...
well, way back then, I don't know if it was that far back, but I think in the 30s they had... could have been 20s. I don't know if it went back that far, but there was an actual adventure series that Frank Buck was his name, and he would film excursions out in Africa or out in the wilderness and out in the wild, and he would shoot things, and but I don't know if it went back that far.
Right.
But
and it very well could have been, though. I mean, there were very well could have been movies that he had seen.
Right.
I do not know. But he said he was back about 60 feet, and he decided not to shoot. So let's continue.
Well, and
sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
There was a thing that I read too where he didn't feel like he was in danger enough to actually use his gun.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for saying that too, because that's one thing he mentioned in this interview. He said he never felt afraid. Right. He wasn't afraid. And they, they basically said, he said, I'd spent a lot of times with Native Americans, with, the Indians. And he didn't really quite elaborate afterwards. So I'm assuming that he maybe had been educated by, I'm being pro Albert right now. So maybe he would have been educated by the Indians that you don't have anything to fear if this happens. Maybe that's what he's trying to say there. I guess I'm not sure. Let's continue.
Go on it. So I decided there must be some other way than shoot them, because I couldn't see with a 30-30.
30-30.
Yeah, the 30-30 would have just bounced off that skull.
Yes, I think I would have tried it, but 30-30 is not big enough.
Sorry. No, like he says, he's saying it's just not powerful enough. But I'm sorry, I can't help but laugh when I hear 30-30. We got the 30-30 out. Okay, sorry. Continuing.
You think that they were as intelligent as humans?
Oh, they're smarter than humans in many ways. They sure avoid people.
Did you notice that they had...
I liked what he said there, Mike. Did you hear him? He said they're smarter than humans in many ways.
In many ways, right. Yeah, and why not? I mean, these are what we believe and what we hear of, they're extremely intelligent, and they have their own language. They have words like anybody else from any other country has a language. They have a language, and we haven't, been interacting with them to learn that language or to share it. or to learn it.
Right.
But they have their own language.
And we have shared some of that stuff, and we will share more when we talk with Ron Moorhead in January.
I cannot wait to talk to the one and only Ron Moorhead.
That's going to be awesome. And by the way, that's going to be another. The audio will be released as a regular podcast episode, but we will also film it as a video that will be a Patreon exclusive. So, if you want to check out Mike's beautiful face, my lovely. My lovely shape and Ron Moorhead, then
my old man, almost 6-year-old face.
Yeah. Well, obviously Ron Moorhead's a selling point, so that'll be awesome. We're looking forward to it. So,
and the man with his voice is made for.
Oh, good Lord, is it
for radio? He's just so. It's so awesome to listen to him with his content on the CDs that you have.
Right.
Talking about it, and it's all well worth it. It's gonna be fantastic.
Going to be fantastic. January 13th, and then followed up by the interview with the She Squatchers, Mike.
Yes,
so
that's gonna be awesome too.
It's going to be a Bigfoot centric
month.
It's going to be awesome. All right, continuing with Albert Ostman.
Had a powerful smell. Did they smell strong?
Oh yeah. The only way I can describe the smell is you imagine a bunkhouse and drying a lot of dirty socks. That's as near as I can explain it.
Why do you suppose they wanted you? Why did they kidnap you?
Well, that's only my own idea. I have nothing to prove it. But I believe that the old man's idea was for me to be a sweetheart for his daughter. That's the way why they didn't hurt me. They intended that I was going to stay with them.
Did she ever make any advances towards you?
Oh no, she was too young. It's hard to tell age on those things, people, Now, that girl could have been, from 10 to 10, 11 years old to 15, 16. You see, she had no development of a lady. But the old lady's breasts, they were like hanging like fur gloves. In old country.
Let's talk about that for a second, Mike. Okay, he's utterly.
I didn't catch what he said, so.
Okay, he's utterly serious right now, but they're talking about, the interviewer asked him why he felt he was kidnapped, and he said that he thought he was going to be, as we mentioned earlier, he was going to be used to breed with the daughter. And the interviewer said, did she make advances towards you? And he said, absolutely not. She was far too young. And he was going on, you can't tell the difference. You can't tell the age of these creatures. And then he says, they're not, she wasn't developed like a woman. And then he goes on, he says, it's not, didn't have essentially the chestal regions of the older Sasquatch females.
Right.
And so that's essentially where we're at right now. And there's, I think
so. He knew it was a juvenile that was
right. And again, I wanted to talk about that though, Mike. He's damn near 80 years old when this interview was conducted. Would there be any reason for him to continue this lie? If this was unbelievably fabricated, would this not be the ultimate time to say, "Ha, gotcha,
right.
gotcha"? I've been pulling your leg the whole time. I mean, come on.
You think it would be difficult to carry it on that long?
Yes, and not not break out and just utter I don't know. I personally would sit there with a smirk on my face and trying my damnness not to laugh my ass off. And it's like, my gosh, these guys are actually interviewing me, and I'm sitting there talking about adolescent Sasquatch and females that I'm supposed to breed with the moment they get old enough. I mean, come on. This is utterly
I have a thought too.
Ridiculous. Okay, yeah, what's your thought?
And a question that I have is why would purebred Sasquatch family, why would they want to intermix with a human being?
Very good question.
That's just really, makes me wonder what, you think they'd want to keep
Mm-hmm.
their lineage because of the specific creature that they are, the specific species.
Yep.
With the difference between so much of a difference between species, like an animal and a human being, what would be the purpose of interbreeding?
That's a great question, Mike. That's a great question. And that's what Albert, let's make this clear. That's purely speculation on Albert's part, by the way.
Exactly. True.
That's what he has always thought.
Yeah.
That's what he has believed to be the reason behind his abduction.
Yeah. Because, for me, it doesn't matter because love is love.
Love is love. Of course it is. Love is love.
But,
Sasquatch human relationships is fine. It's fine.
It would be like breeding a lowland gorilla with an aardvark. It'd be the same thing.
Hey, if that twinkle is in their eye, so be it. Okay.
Yeah.
So
if there's a twinkle in the tinkle, you just gotta go with it.
Maybe the moment that the mother's eyes met Albert's, maybe the the magical Frank Sinatra tunes were playing in the background or something, even though he didn't have any songs at that time. But that doesn't make sense. I think Frank Sinatra was a very young man.
I started doing that, and my dog comes up. Yes, that wasn't meant for you.
That
Macy.
wasn't meant for Macy.
Get out of here.
All right, just a little bit more here to play from.
All right, I'm ready.
Albert.
Country. It was a fella that saved himself from a mad bull by putting snuff in his eyes.
Putting snuff in his eyes, he said.
So I figured if I could get snuff in this fella's eyes, that would blind him, And this morning, I had made coffee, good strong coffee, and I took a chew of snuff, opened the box, and I took a good chew of snuff, and I was smacking my lips, like it was tasting good. So, and the old man, he come over, and he was sitting about 10 feet away from me. And so as soon as I took his snuff, he reached over to take the box. But I didn't want him to take the box. So I kind of hung on to it, but he grabbed it anyhow and took the whole box. And he emptied it all in his mouth. And after a while, he grabbed my coffee tin and he drank the coffee and the ground and all. And his eyes started to roll, in his head. And I saw he was getting sick. So I thought, by God, now is the chance. So finally he stuck his head between his knees and they started rolling, downhill and started to squeal. When he started for the spring, to get water, I started for the opening. And
okay, I have to stop there for a second because I find that interesting because he's been talking about giving the male Sasquatch his snuff. Mm-hmm. And he was pretending to eat it, and he said he was smacking his lips together to make it look like hey, this is tasty, num 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 num, and so the male Sasquatch came up and he grabbed it. It was in the coffee tin, and then he acted like he tried to keep the coffee tin because he didn't want the Sasquatch to grab the entire contents, or he didn't want him to grab the coffee tin. He wanted him to have the contents. But anyways, the Sasquatch supposedly grabbed the tin, the contents, swallowed all of it. And that's interesting because he goes, his eyes rolled back in his head and he put his head between his knees and then started to roll down the hill.
Sounds like something should be on America's Funniest Videos.
Does it, though? But think about that for a second, though.
Woo!
Of all the things to make up, those are some pretty specific lies right there. If these are lies, They're specific, Mike. You know, the eyes rolling back in the head, and then the head between the legs, and then rolling down the hill to try and get to some water at the stream down there.
You hear this snuffling sound as he's rolling down the hill.
Right.
It's like, God damn it, what did you give me? You goddamn Canadian, you. Oh. So did he have his, what's the thing about the coffee tin? Did he made coffee?
That's what he's saying. Well, he said he had made strong coffee earlier that day.
Okay, so I got a question about that.
Yes.
Okay, so he was in the middle of the night sleeping in his sleeping bag. How did he have these supplies with him when he got back to
in his bag
Squatch camp?
Yep, that's a great question.
I mean, did he? I keep my coffee and my coffee tin and whatever, all this stuff in my sleeping bag. I sleep with that stuff.
They never hate. Maybe they do. Maybe that's what.
I mean, how did he have these supplies if he just grabbed off in the night?
That's a great question.
Sleeping in his sleeping bag.
Great question. We don't know.
And I want to preface right here. I want to say,
yes.
I might sound like I'm riffing on Canadians,
but
I'm not.
You're Canadian yourself.
I love Canada. My father was Canadian. I feel like I have a big chunk of Canada in my heart.
Yes, you do.
I love Canada. I really do. My family, I've got so much family in Canada from one coast to the other. And so I am not making fun of Canada because I love Canada. I love Canadians so much. So anyway, carry on.
Oh, I thought you had something to say. You're just,
No, I'm just saying that I'm not making fun of Canada.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
love Canada. I respect the Canadian flag and
understood.
All that stuff. So anyway,
all right, let's finish up what he has to say here.
The boy here ran over to the old lady, and she started to squeal. And then I just made it in the opening, and she was right behind me. So I fired one shot over her head. Then she turned around and she went the other way. And then I kept going, and I must have made some world record down that canyon.
So he says when he finally escaped, he must have made some sort of record running down that canyon. So obviously, Mike, we mentioned that he had his gun on him, and his gun. He slept with his gun. So why not sleep with his coffee can?
Sure. I mean, anything's possible. I'm not going to discount it because of that. I'm more on his side of something actually happened.
I'm more curious as to how he was able to make some coffee, let alone having it on him. How do you go about making it when you're surrounded by a family in Sasquatch?
Well, they had an understanding.
Okay. Let him make his coffee. He needs it. He needs his morning fix. Okay. I get it. Well, Mike, let's wrap up our thoughts on the Albert Ostman's story, his alleged kidnapping by Bigfoot. I mean, I think we kind of covered it pretty well here. There's quite a few stuff that we didn't get to, but we are on a scheduled time, I guess, kind of scheduled time frame a wee bit. Well, what do you think, Mike? Your final thoughts, your final words, and I'm going to put you on the spot because I'm going to say it myself.
Yeah.
When you're done with your final thoughts, I want to hear if you're a believer in this story or not. Okay? So let's go.
Okay. My final thoughts on it. It's a fascinating story. There's no question about that. Even if it was, an abridged version of something that this guy had a dream of, it's a fascinating story.
Good point.
But the thing is that he was consistent. He was telling the story. It didn't sound like a story being told. It was to me. It sounded like a recounting an event. It was it's like he was remembering very well over so many years what happened. And it seemed very legitimate to me. I don't know.
How long
and
have
it's
you been? How long have you been familiar with this story, by the way?
Many years, but I've heard it. I've heard of it. I've read about it a little bit.
Right.
I've never done a deep dive into it.
Sure. I guess what I mean by familiar is you not necessarily like you studied it and looked into
Right,
it, but you
exactly.
but you were aware of it, I should say.
Yeah. I was pretty young.
Okay.
Because from the time I was a young kid, reading books on this, finding paperbacks on different things, anything paranormal, anything weird, anything cryptid. I had come across this story and, it heard about it, but never really, like I said, never dove into it very deep, but I knew of it, and it's been a long time. And I've always been very intrigued by it. And even as a child, hearing about this or reading about a little bit about it or finding out about it, it's always struck me as, wow, that is really something to have happened.
Yeah. Okay.
I've never gone through a thing of, well, yeah, I don't know, that's pretty sketchy. To me, it's easy for me to take things at their word.
You've always been open-minded to the possibility.
Yeah, very open-minded to it. Well, I have a small amount of skepticism unless I have a strong feeling of being skeptic of something. It's like I can feel things about his, the believability or something that's like, yeah, never mind. I don't even want to hear any more about it.
I know. Yep.
But
I'm the same. Yeah.
So as far as my believability, how much I believe it has to be legitimate, you got to leave a certain amount there for skepticism. You can't go 100% on this. I am well over 50%.
Do you need a drum? Should I do the drum roll for you, or are you good?
I'm good.
Okay. I did the drum roll for my Ghostbusters Afterlife review, so I don't need to do it for our
right.
tapes.
Exactly. Listening to his voice, listening to him recounting the story, answering questions about what he went through. There are a few things that are questionable that I can't quite get, but I can kind of understand if I think about it. I am still going to go with a strong 80%.
80% believability is what you're saying.
Right. For me, yes.
Okay. 80%. That's a B grade.
That's very high. That's very high.
Yeah. Okay.
Because, anything can happen.
Of course it can. Of course. And who's to say? I mean, we weren't there. I mean, my gosh, like we said, like this supposedly happened almost 100 years ago.
But then also the fact that we weren't there, that could keep me at 20%. But with my gut feeling and listening to me, actually, because I've never heard this interview before. So this meant a lot to me to hear that. But
good.
That really brings me up pretty high.
And that's okay. So we'll go with Mike's going with 80%, 80 out of 100. And as far as believability goes for him. So a big thumbs up from Mike as far as this being a legit story. I agree with you on so many things you said, Mike. And particularly listening to Albert recount his story when he's damn near 80 years old and he's not changing the details really. He may be struggling to remember things simply because he's getting older.
Even at his age on that interview, he sounded very clear,
very lucid, and
lucid.
And even though it made Mike laugh again, those details about the eyes rolling back and putting
I was picturing it.
The Sasquatch putting his head between his legs and rolling down the hill. I mean,
goddamn Canadian, what did you do to me?
Right, exactly. To me, it's like
I said, America's funniest videos.
It's like reality is funnier than fiction, So it's like, why would you make up something like that?
I could just picture Ron Bergeron introducing this video.
I mean, you know where I'm going, Mike? You know, it's like
I do.
why would he not say, you know, like, well, I gave him, if he was lying, he could have simply have said, well, he ate the whole can of snuff, and then, you know, and then he doubled over and he fell down and passed out, and then it's done.
But he had some awesome detail.
Yeah, the eyes. I mean, it's like, man, that adds a little bit to it, just because it is so out there. It's like, there's the details, you can't deny them. And then my logical, stupid brain sets in.
Is it logical, Patrick?
Okay, my illogical, stupid brain. Is that better? Better? Well, long story short, you'd say an 8 out of 10, 80% out of 100%. I'm going to have to just go straight down the line 50-50. Okay?
Oh, no.
Hey, it's my choice here.
Yeah,
okay?
I know. Yeah, I understand that. But that's putting too much skepticism in it.
I thought 50-50.
You know.
I thought you'd be happy with 50-50 from me, but you're disappointed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he says.
I know, I'm just, but yeah, okay, yeah, but I can understand.
Okay.
See, I can understand.
It's just, it's the pros for him, again, repeating ourselves, the details, not changing his story. He didn't gain anything but ridicule, essentially. You know, he does have his supporters, namely John Green. People who interviewed him said he came across as purely forthright, you know, just honest, down to earth. You know, because you can really get a vibe from people by talking to them, even by listening to them, Mike. You know, you can get it. You can get that read. But then just the outlandishness of the story, and then like Mike, when you threw out the why the hell do you have a coffee tin in his sleeping bag? You know, and just so many different aspects.
Yeah,
I thought I was being generous with the 50-50.
Sure.
Okay, 51-49. Better.
There you go.
Okay.
I'll go with that.
So technically, we're both thumbs up believers then.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know that you want to believe.
Of course I do.
You know,
yes,
100%, because I know how you feel about, you know, the cryptid, the Bigfoot, the Sasquatch. That's a huge thing with you.
I've been fascinated by Sasquatch since I was like a wee little kid, man. And that's no joke.
Yeah.
That's no lie. So, well, we're both thumbs up believers on Albert Ostman. The level of belief wavers a little bit, differs a little bit, but
you know, and sometimes I realize that I can go a little overboard and be a little too open to things, but you know, that's part of who I am.
I know it is.
You know,
that's the whimsy of Michael. The whimsy. Awesome. Well,
the whimsy.
Let's wrap that up, Mike, because holy cow, we're at an hour and 16 minutes already. So we have an awesome one last take segment to come up here, and this is a segment that means a lot to me. It started with a little bit of a very, friendly tweeting disagreement between someone. I don't know if they listened to the podcast or not, but I tweeted out the promotional tweet regarding the last episode, and I threw out the question: have deceased loved ones ever visited you or given you a sign since they have passed? And then I was someone sent a reply, simply stated that
we appreciate
that. Yeah, we do. That simply stated that if a quote unquote dead one has sent you a sign of his or her presence, they are a demon. And I'm like, oh boy, that sets up a lot of
demon disguising itself as a loved one.
Well, yeah, that's what we're going to talk about for a little bit here, Mike. So we're going to do one last take on ghosts as demons. And
this will be fun.
This will be great. So hold on, boys and girls. We're going to do one more time traveling excursion, and we shall be, Mike, mute your mic, buddy. We shall be, all right, back. Okay, we have returned from yet another successful time traveling excursion. Okay, Mike, it's time for one last take. This is quickly becoming I was going to say my favorite segment, but that means that I don't enjoy the meat of the episode as well, which is not true. I'm just really enjoying how we're doing the podcast nowadays, Mike. It's a nice, I'm repeating myself, it's a nice streamlined change from the Alternate podcast, which we loved so much, but it is no more. I'm liking the way the Paranormally Zone is kind of taking off here. It's
absolutely.
It's establishing its own format / agenda / personality. So here we go. One last take. This will be, I think this is technically our 5th episode under the Paranormally Zone moniker, name, whatever you want to call it. And we have done one last take on the Travis Walton alien abduction story. The alien autopsy video.
We have.
We did that. We did one last take. Oh, what was the one we just did last week? Mike, I'm having a brain malfunction right now. It was good. Whatever it was.
Check my notes, but it'll take a few minutes.
Oh no, I can just look at my pictures on my phone here. and don't make that damn noise with your flipping mouth. Stigmata, that's what it was. Stigmata.
That's right.
Of course it was. I was just last week, for God's sake. I love this segment. And this is another one that's going to be a good talking point.
Yeah.
Because
and we did decide that this one last take, it doesn't have to be a paranormal thing. It can be on anything. Pop culture would be awesome.
So far we've stuck with the paranormal, and that's great. That's awesome because that's what we're passionate about. But if you're listening if you're listening right now and you want us to have one last take on anything, like you want Mike and I to argue about the Beatles, send it our way.
Yeah, there you go.
My gosh, we'll have a blast with that one. So
but we will not accept requests for anything political.
No, absolutely
political
not.
Or political.
However,
all three of those are out.
However you choose to pronounce it, we are staying as far away from that as we humanly can.
Absolutely.
So as I mentioned earlier tonight, Mike, I in reposting the link to our prior episode.
Really?
As I mentioned it.
Yes, you did. I forgot.
I was promoting, which you need to do more often, by the way. Anyways,
hey, I'm willing to help with the blog.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Thank you, Mike. That's another aspect that we're adding to our Patreon content, our exclusive Patreon content. We're going to start blogging. I threw together, the idea popped in my head, and I threw together a really quick. That literally took me about 15 minutes to just stream of consciousness
and written
flowing.
Very well, I might say.
Oh, thank you, Mike. But I think this has a lot of possibilities. We're gonna add just random thoughts on everything, man. It doesn't matter what it is. It'll be fun. Mike's going to join in on this, and hopefully our patrons will find it a welcome addition to our exclusive, always growing Patreon content. We got great video content, great audio content, exclusive episodes, ghost hunting videos, ghost hunting footage, personal stuff, personal crap we've captured. So many things. You're getting sick of hearing this. I know you are. But my gosh, try it out for a month. $1, $1 buckaroo, and you have access.
And if you really, really like it, you can up it to $5.
You could, and you'll have it. Well, let's be straightforward here. If you up it to $5, then you have exclusive access to everything on our Patreon page, including the exclusive video episodes, which includes our first video interview exclusive with Mr. Dustin Perry from Ghost Hunters and Ghost Hunters International. We love Mr. Dustin Perry. It's going to be growing.
One of our favorites.
As I said earlier, Ron Moorhead video is going to be.
I actually love the guy.
You do. Ron Moorhead video interview will be exclusive to our patrons, our patrons coming this January, and it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing. Sign up for as little as $1 a month. Give it a shot. No obligations. If you don't like it, you don't have to pay more than $1. So
and if you stay at $1, as happy,
that's
and
fine.
we love you just as much.
Absolutely.
One more side note. This is totally off topic, but as long-time listeners know,
dingy ding 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 ding.
Patrick is a wonderful artist, and he has
good Lord, thank you,
a lot of artwork out there, and has shared with and has given as bonus items for Patreon listeners.
Yes, Patreon $5 subscription can get you a free print of your choice from my paintings and drawings. So.
Yes, and he has a library, a plethora of wonderful art pieces But as
Guess who is
listeners
going
know,
to be? Guess who's going to be adding to that?
yes, Patrick has been after me for years, literally years, for me to start up my artwork again. I have shared a little bit of my artwork on, I think, Twitter.
Yes, you have.
Yes,
Well,
some
on
of my stuff.
Facebook for certain, you did.
And I have been really, my heart has been burdened by want of getting back into my artwork, getting back into it after so many years of being in a artless funk, as I called it earlier. To you, I have said that. The other night, or no, last night, I have purchased I'll use the word plethora again.
Yes.
Of art supplies, and I am getting back into it.
Yay.
There's no stopping me this time. I'm a pen and ink artist, with the dots, the pointillism, all that stuff. But I will never give that up. I will always want to do that, which I will. But I have bought.
You just said that again.
It's I don't know what that is. I have bought the supplies for doing graphite charcoal artwork, and which is something I really feel very strongly about. So I'm going to start getting into that, doing my artwork, and we shall see where it goes. So Patrick has won this battle.
I have, yes.
Of always telling me, get back into your artwork, start doing artwork.
All you have
So
to do
now
is just
it has
start.
begun.
And now I just have to keep pounding on you, at you, to promote the podcast shit too.
Yes. Yeah, that'll be coming. That'll be coming along.
It will. So, no, we're looking forward to that, Mike. You are far too talented to not share and not just create for your own, happiness.
Absolutely. When I got home yesterday after buying my supplies, I kind of sat in here at my podcast desk, which has plenty of room to do my artwork. And I was playing around a little bit, and oh man, did it feel good.
Mm-hmm.
It was like being reintroduced to an old friend.
Absolutely. Good way.
It's like that friend has been waiting for me for so long, and we shook hands last night.
Very nice. You reacquainted yourself.
Hey, and if I put out some nice pieces, I'm willing to share prints with listeners.
Of course. Now, I have to say, I apologize if listeners keep hearing like odd noises from my end here.
I can't hear it on this end.
Okay, good. But it seems like it's rattling around in my ear. My microphone stand is really failing on me right now. It's been bad
and
enough.
how long have I been telling you buy a new one?
I know, it sucks. So I apologize if you hear me continuously adjusting my mic stand, but I'll get that taken care of. Okay, Mike, without any further ado.
Very good.
Without any further ado. Long story short.
Carry on my wayward son.
As I mentioned
There'll
earlier.
Be peace when you are done.
Can I go on, please? Are you done?
Can you finish?
As I mentioned earlier, promoting the podcast, I sent out the tweet that said, like, has a deceased loved one,
yes,
attempted to contact you or sent you a sign at, since they have passed on, moved on, however you want to describe it. And then a Twitter follower, and yes, they do follow the podcast. They did like the tweet, but they also responded with, if a quote-unquote dead loved one has sent you a sign of their presence, they are a demon. And that's what I want to talk about. Because I wrote back and said, I respectfully disagree. That's basically what I said.
Absolutely. And respectfully is a key word there.
Yes, exactly. So I wanted to talk about that, Mike. So the one last take is labeled as ghosts as demons. First and foremost, I don't buy it. I believe in ghosts, as skeptical as I am, as the listeners know that I'm just, I'm like a hard nut to crack when it comes to so many things. I believe in ghosts. I believe that there's something else out there that that's more profound than us, than we can possibly imagine. Okay. But the idea that every single communication between a living sentient being like you and I animals, for Christ's sake. Sorry, I said Christ's sake. Communication, signals, signs, interpreted, received by, sent back towards, I'm doing air quotes, invisible entities / ghosts / spirits / souls, whatever you want to refer to them as. The idea of them being purely demons or demonic in nature is idiotic to me. And I'm saying that in a respectful way.
You're just calling a listener an idiot.
I'm not calling the listener an idiot. I'm
No.
calling the concept idiotic.
The concept, yes, we will. None of our listeners are idiots.
No. Well, and the thing is, I don't know if the man is a listener. I know he's a follower of the podcast. So who knows if he's listening right now? But he is on. I looked at his Twitter page, and he is a preacher / priest. I can't remember exactly what.
Okay.
I should. Okay. Out of respect for him, I'm going to make sure exactly. I'll give him a shout out too, as to
absolutely
his Twitter handle. Go check him out. He is Dr. Witnesser is his Twitter handle, and Dr. Witnesser is labeled as a Christian podcaster and YouTuber.
Okay.
You can go find his podcast at drwitnesser.podbean.com. So there you go.
I have a great idea.
So you can check out Dr. Witnesser. Check him out, drwitnesser.podbean.com. And well, I'm looking at him right now. Now it says that he didn't follow us anymore. Maybe he unfollowed us.
Well, I was just going to say we should try and get him on the show.
Yeah, I don't know. Unless he just happened to find. This is interesting. Yeah. Unless I'm looking at my wrong page right now. No. Maybe wait. He follows our ghost page, our ghost hunting page, the Paranormally.
Oh,
Paranormally 3 is what he follows. Anyways,
what do you think? Maybe we should reach out to him to see if he wants to come on and talk about it respectfully between us. I mean,
so he sent a link though, but the thing is that maybe he did unfollow us. Now that I'm looking at it again, because he did send a link because after I respectfully disagreed with his take. And we're all granted takes. We're all granted beliefs. We're all granted opinions.
Absolutely.
Who's to say that any one of us is right or wrong? You know, I mean, that's why we love doing this podcast, because we're throwing everything out there. And he did specifically send this link to the Paranormally Zone, our podcast page. So, yeah, I think he did unfollow us. So I'm sorry to see that.
Well,
Dr.
And
Witnesser.
then we respect that also. I
We
mean,
do.
if he feels, anybody feels uncomfortable with, our whatever episode we have or content, we totally respect that. And if it makes you uncomfortable, do what you feel you need to do.
So I'm going to go right to the ending of the link that he sent me here. This is from amazingfacts.org that he sent me in response to my disagreement of his. And the article is titled, "Are the Dead Really Dead?" And this is coming from a Christian standpoint. And I want to clarify, this is from a very strong Christian standpoint. I don't want to alienate anyone out there. I was raised a Christian, for crying out loud. Longtime listeners, ding, 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 know that I have a Catholic background, a Catholic upbringing. So this is very personal for me.
Right.
But a lot of things I just can't, it's difficult for me to accept and to grasp, I guess. And as Mike can see, I'm like flying through this because I'm trying to find the damn exact point that I wanted to quote from said article. So one moment. Okay, here it is. This is the part of this article that I wanted to dive into is labeled as "Belief in Reincarnation is Expanding Rapidly Today. Is this teaching biblical?" And this is a quote. I can't even speak. Biblical quote. "The living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. Nevermore will they have a share in anything done under the sun." And that is quote from Ecclesiastes 9:5. And this is an interpretation of that quote. "Almost half the people on earth believe," not an interpretation, but this is kind of an answer to this question. Almost half the people on earth believe in reincarnation, a teaching that the soul never dies, but is instead continually reborn in a different kind of body with each succeeding generation. This teaching, however, is contrary to the scripture. The Bible says, after death, a person returns to dust, Psalms 104:9, knows nothing, Ecclesiastes 9:5, possesses no mental powers, Psalms 146:4, has nothing to do with anything on earth, Ecclesiastes 9:6, does not live, Kings 21, waits in the grave, Job 17:13, and continues not, again from Job 14:1. Where I'm getting at, the argument here is that Satan invented the teaching that the dead are alive. Okay, Mike? Reincarnation, channeling, communication with spirits, spirit worship, and the undying soul are all inventions of Satan with one aim: to convince people that when you die, you are not really dead. When people believe that the dead are alive, spirits of devils working miracles, Revelation 16:14, and posing as spirits of the dead will be able to deceive and lead them astray virtually 100% of the time, Matthew 24:24. So that's all I will read from that article. It's an interesting article, very fascinating, actually. So I know that we've mentioned this before, Mike, and I know that a lot of people adhere to this faith, this belief, and that's awesome. That's wonderful. More power to you. But obviously they're saying that essentially, Mike, all ghosts are demons, my friend. And if you are hearing voices coming through us or coming to us through the spirit box, those are demons. If we pick up a voice that says it's Debbie on our EVP on our digital recorder, that's a demon.
The only way I would think it's a demon is if all of a sudden I hear your mother, and then you fill in the rest.
Okay, sure, I get it.
You know,
Now,
but
I know where you stand on this, Mike. But let's talk about it, okay? How do you feel about the idea that every single ghostly experience that everyone has ever had is demonic in nature?
I respect the beliefs of, there's so many different beliefs, cultures, religions, sects.
I know what you're saying. Yes.
Sect out there that they have their own beliefs that come from a beginning. They come from something that is pertinent to that religion, that culture. And they can conflict, they can contradict between the cultures. I'm starting to struggle a little bit here.
I can always tell when you're struggling, Mike, and I'm not defending you, but I kind of am. I can tell when your mind is really racing and you're trying to grab how you want to make sure to verbalize your thoughts, and it gets
right.
It's
and there's
hard.
so much there to verbalize and to work through.
It is hard,
and who is anyone to say that each person's belief, that each person's culture, each person's religion is wrong?
Mm-hmm.
I believe that strongly. And I'm not ripping on this guy that this follower or ex-follower or whatever put out there, because that is a strong belief that he has, and that in his heart and his mind and his religion is what he believes in, and I respect that.
Mm-hmm.
This is something we each have our own belief. We each have our own experiences that we have that can form a belief.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I know the experiences that I've been through that form my beliefs.
I was just going to ask you.
I know the religions that I've belonged to because of my mom and dad going back and forth to different religions, trying to find the right belief for them. I have learned from different religions, and I'm thankful for that because it has helped me to form my own opinion. And that along with what I've experienced. I mean, I'm probably rambling right now.
No, you're not. You're not at all.
I want to go, for me, I go by what I have personally experienced, and what I've learned and what I've learned to be real for myself, whether it's a belief or a thought or a faith or a personal experience. I cannot subscribe to somebody saying for me that all ghosts are demons, because for me, for myself, know different.
Right.
That's not saying that he's wrong for what he believes or what he's experienced.
Thank you for saying for what he's experienced. Exactly. Because
Exactly.
who's to say that he, everything he has experienced or everything he has believed absolutely adheres to what he's arguing for right there.
Right. He may have experienced things that I can't even imagine.
So,
I
but I know where, and you're trying to be as delicate as you can, Mike, and I appreciate that. Listeners appreciate that, because we don't want to alienate anybody,
anything,
and
anybody.
It's, to me, again, it's okay. Is asinine a nicer word? I don't think it is, but to just blanket label everything as something just with a wide brush and go, wow.
Right.
Okay, everything that's over there is that, and that's how it is. It's
right.
like, no, I don't think so, my friend. There's so much more to it. There's so many different, aside from personal experiences, aside from personal takes, there's just so many different factors that go into everyone's beliefs, and I'm getting flustered now, Mike, because I'm trying to bite my tongue. I don't want to be negative sounding, because we are open-minded here, as skeptical as I come across as a lot of times.
You are still very open-minded, as skeptical as you are.
Absolutely. And I believe in demons.
You have a balance.
I believe in demons. I mean, Mike is the one who doesn't necessarily believe in demonic stuff, but I think you're coming around to that a little bit more.
I am definitely coming around.
And it's to me, it's very real. But to apply that blanket label, that wide brush to every paranormal experience that every person has ever had throughout the existence of life, throughout the existence of this earth, again, to me, that's asinine. That's idiotic, because it's just, Mike, the few things that I have experienced and the few things that I am skeptical about, considering that I am someone who believes in demons and believes that demons are possible, I should say, the fact that I myself am not terrified or just like unbelievably I feel dirty and like, oh my God, the devil himself has made himself presence and made his presence known to me, and I'm going to burn in hell because I've acknowledged him right now, yada yada yada. Just the weird things that I've experienced as a skeptic. I look at it as a positive. I'm like, I want more. It's right. Like, show me. It's something that's positive. I feel positive about it. I don't feel negative. Now, again, this person and people who abide by his faith will say, well, that's the devil. That Satan is fooling you. Satan is deceiving you, and he wants you to believe that is something other than, pure evil. Long story short, Mike, I don't abide by. There's that word again. I'm saying abide a lot right now tonight.
It fits.
It does. I don't buy it. I don't think, and I think our listeners, hopefully, I don't mean to speak for them, but I think the majority of them are probably aside with where we sit at. That there's no damn way that little girl apparition floating in front of you, Mike, as a little kid, was demonic in nature.
Right. And, people that have been visited by loved ones.
Thank you for bringing that. That's why I forgot about that. Thank you for bringing that up. Go.
Where this person believes that, well, it's a demon that is manifesting to you as a loved one to get into your mind, your psyche, to make you whatever. There are too many stories that I've heard that a loved one comes to, well, it's like the after death visits, comes to a family member to comfort and to tell them and let them know in their time of extreme grief.
Yep.
That don't worry, everything's good, everything's fine. I'm not gone. I'm not. It's everything is wonderful. Everything is beautiful.
And why would pure evil / the devil want anyone to feel comfort at any time?
Absolutely. It's like they can come to you and just wrap you in like angels' wings and give you a complete feeling of comfort, and it change your life for the better. A demon is not going to do that.
No.
Great
point again. It changes your not only is it a positive experience in that moment, but it could change your whole life.
Absolutely.
For the better. And therefore you are affecting other people throughout the years in a positive manner.
Absolutely.
Would a demon / devil want you to do that?
No. I mean, the experiences I have with being with people that are at their last moments, like we talked about before with like the after death visits, when I've been with somebody that is transitioning into that moment of death or getting closer, and they see, I know in my heart that they are seeing family there that is waiting for them, comforting them at their time that they're dying, and that they're going to make that transition into the next existence, the next realm, whatever you want to call it. A demon isn't going to come to comfort you looking or as a family member, as your mother, as your father that's passed away decades ago, to comfort you, to welcome you into the next existence. I mean, people might believe that's a trick or whatever, but I've seen it. I've seen that. I've seen the joy on somebody's face that's dying as they see a brother or a mother, like my father before he passed away. He saw his mother and father come to him when he was laying in bed one day, and they looked like they were like he remembered them healthy and young, and they were just standing there next to his bed, and he was looking at them, and they were looking at him and smiling. And it's like the message that my father got from that was that they're going to be there when he comes,
when he transitions,
when he passes over.
Yep.
Pure peace, and the rest of the time that my father was alive, he would tell that story, and it was nothing but pure joy.
And it just doesn't gel with the nature of what demonic influence would suggest, would it, Mike?
Right.
It doesn't.
And not to say that can't happen.
No, I get that.
Like this person, saying that, anything can happen. There can be tricksters out there. There can be, demons out there that might do this, but that's not all there is. I mean, I believe that strongly on my experiences, what I've seen, what I've felt. I don't know.
I know. I'm sorry.
There's comfort. There's comfort that's there. That's pure comfort, and that's what some of these visits are for.
We're going super long, and there's so much I'd like to go on and on about. It's interesting reading this. I'll do this really quickly, Mike, and we're not going to spend time on it, but it's the same article. It's a list of 20 questions. Like the one I read to you to start this off was question number 17, essentially, or statement number 17, and then like a reply to it, an interpretation of the biblical quotes. So I'm going back to number 3 here, and this question is, what is the spirit, quote unquote, spirit that returns to God at death? And this is a biblical answer, biblical quote, James 2:26. The body without the spirit is dead. And this is from Job 27:3. The Spirit of God is in my nostrils. It's always something. I just like the nostrils part for some reason. But, and their, interpretation / answer here is the spirit that returns to God at death is the breath of life.
Right. In the nostrils, that's what I immediately thought it was the breath that.
Nowhere in all of God's book does the spirit have any life, wisdom, or feeling after a person dies. It is the quote-unquote breath of life and nothing more. So when your body dies, the spirit is nothing more than the breath of life that goes back essentially to God, breathing in out of the nostrils of God. Yeah. The next question, Mike, is what is a soul? And this is a biblical quote from Genesis. The Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. The answer to this is a soul is a living being. A soul is always a combination of two things, body plus breath. A soul cannot exist unless body and breath are combined. God's word teaches that we are souls, not that we have souls. So
really?
I kind of like that a little bit.
I'm
souls.
I'm kind of leery of that.
God's word teaches that we are souls, not that we have souls. You kind of get that?
Oh, okay. That's like me in my belief of we are not humans living a spiritual existence. We are spirits living a human existence.
Exactly.
And that is what I very much believe in.
And that's essentially the same thing what's said right there.
Okay, I got it. But there's, like I was saying earlier about the different cultures, the different religions, the different beliefs. Not because we're going by and reading, biblical transcript here to try to explain things, but there's also so many different, like going into the talking about the cultures and the beliefs and the religions. I think that there are so many things that we can learn from Christian belief, from any other culture that is not Christian. It doesn't make them wrong.
Oh, of course it doesn't.
I mean, my God, I have belief and strong feelings about Viking paganism, even.
I know you do.
That is a deep spiritual existence, or very spiritual feeling that rings very true.
Mike, we are in. I can kind of see where you're going, but we are imperfect beings. Okay,
right?
We're not going to nail it with one religion over another.
We can't.
What is wrong? What is wrong with the idea of taking the good parts of each and every one?
Absolutely, that's what I'm trying to say.
I knew that's where you're going, and that's why I'm sorry for interrupting you, but it's like it's an impossible task to find the perfect quote unquote religion, the perfect
Wiccans,
spiritual outlet.
Nature. Everything. It's all one big package.
It is. And the idea and what frustrates people like you and I, Mike, is the fact that it is so ostracizing so many who said, well, if you don't adhere to everything that I say is right, then you are unbelievably wrong and I want nothing to do with you and you're a bad person. Right. It's like, no, why can't we kind of meet at the middle here? Let's banter back and forth. That's what drives us nuts and a lot of our listeners nuts, I'm sure. It's frustrating, but man, let's just look at the positive and let's grow from there. Let's do it.
I have a hard time even labeling myself as anything. I mean, if somebody were to ask me, well, are you a Christian? I'd have to look at them and say, well, I don't know, because
it's okay to say you aren't.
Because I can take something from everything and find positive and find truth and find, and there is that dark side. There is, okay, God damn it, I'm going to say
it. Do it.
Patrick, there is that demonic, there is that demon.
There is.
That's there. There's that part of the balance between the demonic and the good.
There's the yin and the yang,
but
man.
I tell you, there's a lot more good than there is bad.
I definitely hope that you're right on that.
But at the same time, there is still that balance.
Mike, you know, it's the cliched lame Star Wars reference, Mike, or you know, the example, the dark side versus the light side,
Right.
man. That balance. George Lucas, all about Buddhism, man. He was sitting there.
I can learn a lot. I have learned a lot from Buddhism.
Oh my gosh, and that's essentially what it's all about. I mean, when it's narrowed down simply in Star Wars terms, light side, dark side, balance.
Yep.
The
yin and the yang, and the
yes, absolutely,
dark and the light. It's what our entire existence is made up of,
and what keeps it going.
And from what's made up our existence, all these offshoots come, the religions, the beliefs, the cultures, but it all comes down to that same thing of that balance.
Yep, and it all
and
comes
it's
down
the interpretation of that balance.
Thank you, Mike. I was just going to say that's where we get it all wrong, is that interpretation. So
everybody keep an open mind and
oh gosh,
and
yes.
just
So you know, Dr. Witnesser, we gave you a shout out. I thought you followed us, maybe you never did, but I appreciate you interacting. I appreciate your thoughts.
Thank you for your thoughts and your interaction and giving us this. I mean, hey, you brought up our last take for.
Oh, you did.
Episode.
You did. Absolutely. You did. You
have contributed greatly.
100%. And again, I'll say I respectfully disagree. And I know I said idiotic and asinine and all that stuff. And I'm sorry, I can't help myself every now and then.
Well, instead of disagreeing, let's bring what he believes into the whole balance.
Sure. 100%, man.
I mean, we aren't going to tell him that he's wrong.
No. We have no right to say that.
We don't have the right to do that.
No.
So.
Well, Mike, this has been freaking awesome. We have got.
Oh, absolutely. When are we not awesome?
We are 2 hours into this, so it's time to say goodbye for this episode.
Absolutely.
Mike, I can't thank you enough. This has been a blast. Without further ado, Mike, what do our awesome listeners need to do?
Well, along with the fact that we love all of you, we ask one personal thing, and that is, my lovelies, peace out.